Hi YouTube, it's Kathy and this is my weekly entertainment wrap-up for December 25th through 31st. This week I read one book, I watched 3 shows, I watched 2 movies, and I listened to 1 book. Before we get into it, Happy New Year to everyone. Thank you for joining me in 2023, which feels weird to say, but I'm sure we'll eventually get used to it. There's tons of end of the year content I could make, but I want to know what you actually want to see from me. So if there's a certain type of end of the year video that you would like to see me put up, please just let me know about it down in the comments below and I will comply. For me, it's one of those things where I just like to do things in a routine. You might notice, considering I've been making these videos for 6 years now. But this is a good time if you have any questions for me, anything like that, to let me know that's what you want me to do as a type of video, so I can kind of mix it up a little bit. What I can tell you about 2022 is it is the year that I read the least amount of books since I started doing BookTube, and that's because I finally got another hobby. I might have mentioned it once or twice. It's called cross-stitching. It's taken over my life. And my reading in 2023 is going to be interesting, especially for the months of March, April, and May, because I will be in Europe, which is going to give me some really good time to get through the backlog of ebooks I have on my phone. The book I finished this week is Take a Bow, Noah Mitchell. This is a contemporary young adult about this boy living in Australia who, up until 3 years ago, had friends, was just a normal kid, but then something happened. Nobody's his friends anymore, except for this one guy he games with online. Now, the guy he games with has a mother who is very protective and won't let them exchange different information that will reveal their identities to each other, so they're not allowed to talk about where they go to school or mutual friends' names or anything like that, no identifying details, but they have been doing this online gaming thing for like over a year, and Noah is in love with him. Noah also has this mother who is big into the community theater scene in their town, and this just delights me because I love anything theater based, even when the main character is not a theater kid, and seeing it through non-theater kid eyes, so funny to me. Anyway, she really wants him to help out in the local production of Chicago because they need more boys, which they always need more boys. Half the time it feels like boys don't even need to audition for things, whereas girls need to audition and then get their hopes dashed every time. At least that's what it felt like growing up in community theater. But he's like, hell no, why would I do theater? However, one day when his mom has just recently gotten home from rehearsal, his friend comes online and is like, sorry I'm late, I just got back from rehearsal. And he's like, wait a second, I might be able to meet the man of my dreams if I join the cast, and that's exactly what he does. This is obviously a sticky situation because there is a power imbalance if he knows who he's talking to, but the other person doesn't know he's talking to him. So it does get quite sticky at some points. There are also some other things that he learns along the way, and this was just so heartfelt and lovely, and I ended up really very much enjoying it. Obviously, I was going to be hooked because of the theater aspect, and now I need to rewatch Chicago because it's been way too long. And even just reading this book, because I had little snippets of the songs going through my head because he'd complain about things, and I'd be like, oh yeah, I'm pretty sure I know the beat of that song, like, oh yes, oh yes, oh yes, they both, oh yes, they both, oh yes, they both reach for the gun, the gun, the gun, the gun, oh yes, they both reach for the gun, and now I'm like, I gotta watch it again. I just feel like there were tons of situations in this that were dealt with incredibly well. I loved how all these side characters had their own internal monologues and what they were doing in life and their own motivations, and this was just lovely. Now I need to read more by this author. On to the shows we watched this week. When we got back to the house after spending time up island for the holidays, we wanted to turn something on that wasn't necessarily House. We didn't want to dive right back into it in that exact moment, but Chad had recently heard of this show called Only Murders in the Building, and I was hooked because I knew it was about these people that really liked true crime, trying to figure out a true crime in the building they live in. But then you also have the fact that it's Steve Martin, Martin Short, and Selena Gomez. I know she's famous, I know she's a singer, I'm pretty sure that's her name. I don't follow musicians very closely, but she also does act. She was in that Adam Driver zombie movie as well, I'm pretty sure. Anyway, these 3 people really love this one true crime podcast, and one night they are all in their building and the fire alarm is pulled, so they're all kind of kicked out. And they're trying to scramble to find a place to sit down and continue listening to their podcast because an episode just dropped and they really just need to know what's happening in it. And they all find themselves in the same place and realizing they're all listening to the same thing and just start discussing it. However, when they get back to their building, they find out it's not a fire or something like that. They find out somebody is actually dead. Then they create their own podcast to try to figure out who killed this person in the building, to mixed success because there is a lot of personality things going on here. There's a lot of secrets being kept, and I am so into this. We're only about 4 or 5 episodes into it. They're only about 35-minute episodes, and we watched until the point where Chad fell asleep halfway through an episode because he was wiped, and we just need to go back and continue watching it. This week, in something that feels very nostalgic because it's a show that I was watching when I started making weekly wrap-ups, I watched the entire 18th season of Grey's Anatomy. Up until this point, I had actually watched episodes 1 through 5, and 5 is one that definitely makes you cry quite a bit. But I had watched them kind of as they were airing, and I really wanted to wait until I could just watch all the episodes at my leisure, so I went back to the beginning just to make sure I remembered what was happening, and I watched every single episode, and my goodness, it leaves you in quite some interesting places at the end of the season. I really can't say much more than that besides, like, I'm really excited that certain characters have been added to this. I really enjoyed seeing the inclusion of especially ER Fightmaster, because there were some scenes with them that I was just like, wow, this is fantastic. Not just for, like, representation and character growth in the show, but also just, like, some incredibly attractive things happened. This week my roommate was also watching more episodes of Ally McBeal, and I happened to be in the room cross-stitching at the time. And what I want to talk about specifically when talking about Ally McBeal this time is there were quite a few episodes that I had missed because we had been apart from each other for over a week. There was this one thing where I guess Cajun Fish had gone to Los Angeles and John had met this woman, and there was kind of an attraction there, but I guess he recently had a breakup, so like he didn't pursue it. And in one of the episodes I saw, she actually came to town and like tried to take him to dinner and that type of thing. And I'm just like, Megan, that is Bernadette Peters. You probably don't know, but she is a Broadway legend, to the point where when I made you watch Tick Tick Boom and they did that song about Sundays and there was just a bunch of Broadway legends, she was one of them. So if she doesn't sing in this episode, I'm gonna be really mad, because this is a TV show that often has guests who can sing on it and has them sing in the bar downstairs of the law firm for no reason other than our really entertainment. And you know what? Bernadette Peters was in that bar and she did not sing, and I was so mad. How do you get Broadway legend Bernadette Peters on your show where people sing often for no reason and she doesn't do a number? I was mad. However, 1 or 2 episodes later, Robert Downey Jr., who I didn't know was even in the show, because when I watched the show I probably only saw early episodes, and I knew he was in the show because I've seen him in the show since he and Ally had started dating at this point, and I think I knew, like somebody had told me that he could sing, but I'd never actually seen it occur. So to see him sing, 1, was amazing, and 2, I kind of knew that it was going to turn into a duet with Sting, which it did, and that was also lovely to see. It's also a little bit full circle for the things I watched this week, because Sting also plays himself in Only Murders in the Building. So it's just lovely and odd that I get to see him play himself in 2 different shows 20 years apart in the same week. On to the movies I watched. When my roommates came home from the holidays, they were like, holy crap, we saw this movie called Knives Out. It was amazing. We really liked it. We need to see the sequel. And I'm like, I literally just watched the sequel last week, but I will watch it with you again because it is delightful and it's fun to just watch the twists and turns that you know are already going to happen and kind of see them through the fresh eyes of already knowing what's going to happen, and that's exactly the experience I had. It was also fun to watch it with them because obviously they hadn't seen it yet, so they'd be yelling out theories and being like, this, obviously this, what's happening? And that's just a lot of fun when you actually know what's going on and you're seeing them go through that process. So if you didn't see me talk about Glass Onion last week, it is a Knives Out mystery. So Benoit Blanc is on a secluded island with these people who have been brought there by this millionaire to solve his murder. It's a murder mystery party, but then somebody actually might end up dead, and you'll have to figure out why and all the motives and all of those things, and it's just so fun. I really enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to the next one because there's going to be at least 3 of them, and this is the type of thing where you could just keep making these movies and I would be very fine with that. We also watched a movie called Amsterdam, which I had never heard of before, but it is a star-studded cast of people. Basically what happens is there is a doctor and a lawyer. They were in the war together, and they are trying to help this one woman because she thinks that her father has been murdered. But as they are trying to help with that, something happens. People think that they have committed a murder. They have to kind of run around town and society and try to figure out how to clear their name, and also try to figure out why people have ended up dead at the same time. You also see flashbacks to when they all lived in Amsterdam together and some spy things that may or may not have been going on. I actually found this pretty interesting. I did watch it pretty late at night after watching Glass Onion, so some of the details are a little bit fuzzy just because I watched it so late at night and my brain was kind of turning itself off for bedtime. Overall, I was pretty entertained by it, and I'm pretty sure that if I had watched it in a state where I could retain more of the details, I'd be even more interested in it. Apparently a lot of critics didn't really like this, and all I can say is they showed me the trailer for it before we actually watched it, and basically what I took away from watching the trailer is if people didn't like it, I'm assuming it's because it had kind of a queer vibe. Like, it felt like these three main characters might have been a throuple. I don't think they actually were, just based on things they did. It might actually be a little bit queer baity, but again, I don't have all the details really stuck in my head. However, I didn't think it was bad. I thought the acting was really well done. I thought the story was interesting. People are also probably uncomfortable because there's so much about like the history of the United States and how it's just garbage and driven by capitalism and those types of things. So if you don't like those types of themes, you're probably not gonna like it, but I thought it was fine. And finally, the audiobook I listened to this week was The Third Rainbow Girl. This is a book sort of about these murders that happened back in the 1980s in Appalachia, and then also sort of about the author of the book, who ended up living in that area when she was in her late teens and early 20s and actually met the guy who found those bodies, and from there kind of went into a spiral of trying to figure out what happened to them and just looking into the case and that type of thing. This is the type of true crime that isn't really my favorite type of true crime writing, because I don't really like it when you have like a case and then a person looking into it, and a lot of the book has to do with the person looking into it and their experiences of that, as opposed to like actually talking about the case. Don't get me wrong, she does talk about the case and the person that was ultimately convicted and the person who might also have done it and all that type of thing, but I'm not the biggest fan of books like this because it feels like it's two completely different books just kind of shoved into one book because you couldn't actually just write them separately. Like, it looks like she just wanted to write her memoirs and she also wanted to write about this case, and for whatever reason it feels like that needs to be together for her, but for an audience I don't feel like it does. The title of this one also makes me feel a little bit uncomfortable because there were two rainbow girls who were murdered in this case, and I'm not going to get too deep into the crime of what happened and what was talked about in this book, but essentially there were two girls who were on the way to a rainbow gathering and they were murdered, and they were called the Rainbow Girls even though they never ended up making it to any rainbow gatherings, so that in itself is a little bit problematic. But they had up until about a day previous been traveling with a third girl who was completely fine, so you would think that she would be the third rainbow girl, so maybe you're looking at this through her perspective. But I think the title is more so reflecting the author looking at things, and that again just feels kind of weird to me. Obviously with a big case like this, if you are really looking into it, you are going to start feeling some connection to it, so I don't have a problem with writers talking about their self when they are talking about the process of doing true crime and that type of thing, but I do have a problem when it takes up like half the book. If it's just something at the beginning or the end that just kind of explains the fascination with this particular case and what it's meant to your life, I completely understand that. But when a book that I believe is going to be true crime becomes half memoir about the person writing the true crime, it's just not my favorite format. That's it for this week. If you've read, watched, or listened to any of these, let me know about it down in the comments below. On the way down to the comments, if you hit that subscribe button, that would be very nice of you. If you don't feel like leaving a comment but want to make sure that I know you were here, just leave me an emoji or smiley face if you happen to be on your keyboard. Some people have asked if there's a way to financially support this channel, so I set up a Ko-fi account, which is a digital tipping service. The link for that, as always, is down below. You can like and share this as you see fit, and I will see you very soon. Bye!